And welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. You know where to find us. It gets longer. I'm trying to compact it because this game is taking years off my life already. We are going to be recapping Lions versus football team from Washington, and we will be doing it in style. But I just want to say that I didn't think, like, as much as I like these last second wins, as much as I enjoy kind of shades of 2016 sometimes, this one's not good for my heart right now. And this one's not good in the context for it, but we'll break all of that down. First, though, we introduce everyone here at Pride of Detroit. I am Chris Perfett, the adequate host at Chris Perfett, Perfett, where you can send all of your angry tweets and comments about how I'm just bad for everything around me. And joining me, as always, the fearless leader, who is in a complete 180 from where he was during our mailbag podcast, Jeremy Reisman at Detroit Online. Hello, buddy.
Hey, I almost brought out the Halloween candy again just to kind of eat it in a triumphant way this way. Because, yeah, I'm not going to lie. It may have taken years off your life, but this is Lions football, and it came out with a win this week, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to smile all this podcast because we only get 16 of these, and we get even fewer wins. Absolutely. So improvement from last year, baby. 3.5 wins last year. We're already at 4. 7 games left on the schedule, baby. Let's go.
No.
Yep.
385 days since the Lions last won in Ford Field, and no boos there, no Bronx cheers. But you know what? They pull it off. And joining us as a third man, Ryan Matthews. At Ryan_POD. Ryan, how are we doing?
I'm doing all right. I was, I'll be honest. I was rooting for Alex Smith this game. I wasn't even rooting for the Lions to win. I was just rooting for Alex Smith to do good things. And 390 yards.
There you go.
Career high.
Hey, those are Fugazi yards. I've got a theory on a lot of it because, like, up until me and Mansour was watching this up on Discord, which we have a Discord as well for Pride Detroit. If you're on Twitch, you can always get the link there. I was watching Alex Smith throw behind the line of scrimmage the entire game until the fourth quarter. Now, in the fourth quarter, he was making throws down the field. We're going to get to that later. I think the Lions defense was letting him, in a very bad decision by the Lions defense, but a lot of those 390 yards are yak. And that's on the receivers. Yakety yak. That's what I think of Alex Smith.
Well, you know, if everybody could do it, then everybody would. But not everybody can. And that guy shouldn't even be alive right now. So
that's cool. No, it's a great comeback story. It's also Fugazi numbers. I'm just being the realist here. I'm being the one doing the math, the science. I'm not using my heart. I'm using my brain.
All of sports aren't real. Who cares? Numbers don't matter.
Sports aren't real.
Jesus Christ, you guys are dark. Let's go, guys. Come on. 4 and 5. If Deandre Swift catches that pass, they're 5 and 4.
Don't do that.
What are you doing? Why are you this way?
Ron, you weren't here on our mailbag. This is a 180 from him where he was yelling at our readers for giving questions that made him upset and angry about the state of this team.
All the Lions have to do is win on Sunday, and then Jeremy's like, all right, baby, 9-7 trade.
No.
Playoffs, here we go.
This is not what I'm asking.
Boom.
I'm not asking you to buy in for the future. I'm asking you to enjoy the freaking present, guys.
No,
you guys are acting like
I enjoy it.
How was any of this game fun? There was nothing fun about this game. Deandre Swift was fun.
Yeah, so was Matt Prater. So was the entire first half. So was Matthew Stafford. So was the offensive line.
And the defense is still
okay.
basura.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't care about that right now because they played good enough to win.
So Jeremy,
the 2020 Detroit Lions,
good enough to beat a 2-6 Washington team.
Jeremy's mood is basically 100% swinging on whether or not Matt Prater makes a field goal at
yes.
the end of the game.
That's what football is.
Still clutch, baby.
That's
still clutch.
football.
Matt Prater, still clutch, baby. Still clutch. 59-yard field goal. Hey, where are all the people talking about how Matt Prater couldn't get it done? Okay, I got clutch numbers for all of you later.
We should have had Jerry on the podcast just so you two can go at it for a half hour on Matt Prater.
on kickers. Yeah, that'd be great content.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's what we live for here. That's just special teams nonstop. Listen, this was this had a lot of people in their feelings, I feel like, just because this was a schizophrenic game. Up and down, just unbelievable insane. Like the Lions start the day with 2 back-to-back sacks to force Washington out of field goal range, touchdown. Then later on, there's a missed field goal. There's a fumble recovery by Detroit. There's field goals. There's, the first half, it was everything the Lions wanted. And then we hit that second half and cool. The Lions went up, what was it? 24 to 10 to 3, 24 to 3. And then it started to slowly trickle down. And we were all living in that half-life of, oh God, everything sucks again. Oh God, we all know what's happening. We've all seen this coming before. Why are we here, Snake? Just to suffer? Every night I can still feel my arm. And somehow the Lions hold on for dear life to win this game. Final score 30. Washington football team 27. And I feel like this is where we got to get into our takeaways. As much as I love watching you guys argue about kicker, I feel like, Ryan, you're heated. I want to hear what you think about this game right now.
That's fine. You know what? I'm gonna go the optimistic route because that's what Jeremy wants. So my one takeaway is, why hasn't Deandre Swift been the lead back since day one?
That's not optimistic. God, yes. You just took an optimistic and made it negative.
Perfect.
No, I'm on board with this. It's spicy. Like I get it, Adrian. You know what? I'll let you get to your point. Swift taking the lead seemed to have also pissed off Adrian Peterson, which helped him as well in this game. I mean, obviously he didn't get a lot of carries, but still, AD, mad, works a little bit. But Swift is the star of the day, and I will give the floor to you.
Yeah, Swift is the star of the day. 16 carries, 81 yards, over 5 yards a carry, and then 5 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown, 149 all-purpose yards. I think that's a great number for Deandre Swift every week. If that guy is somewhere in the 100 to 150 all-purpose yards, you use Deandre Swift appropriately. If he's somewhere in between those numbers, then you did enough to get him the ball. And it was just nice to see the Lions finally change the guard. I know we talked about it way earlier in the offseason, and it seems like this season has just been the longest season ever. But I remember us talking about it doesn't really matter who the starter is. I think it mattered today. I think it mattered for Deandre Swift to be given that moniker, and he made the most of it. I think he was undoubtedly the most important player on the field for the Lions. For as good of a game as Matthew Stafford had, I want to give all the props in the world to Deandre Swift. And why have we waited so long? I don't know why we waited so long. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad the Lions are finally using the guy that they spent a second round pick on. This seemed inevitable, though, didn't it, Jeremy? This seemed inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, it was growing towards that every week. He had been getting more snaps than Adrian Peterson for weeks now, although I think a lot of that had to do with them falling way behind in games, and Adrian Peterson's not very valuable out there when the team's down 3 scores. But,
you don't say.
But, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Deandre Swift was the game plan on offense. That's it. He was the game plan. He was the guy that they wanted to run the ball with. He was the guy that they wanted to throw to a lot. I think the most telling part in the entire game is right after it felt like the wheels were coming off. Washington had just tied the game. The Lions offense had gone 3 and out back-to-back possessions. What did they do on the next possession? Pass to Deandre Swift. Pass to Deandre Swift. Run with Deandre Swift. Pass to Marvin Jones. Run to Deandre Swift. Run to Deandre Swift. Run to Deandre Swift. 6 out of the first 7 plays of that drive went to Deandre Swift. He was their game plan, and he's the reason why the offense. And I know you want to be negative on the defense, but we have to give the offense a lot of credit for this game. This was a good Washington defense. Bad overall
the
team.
Best in the league right now.
In pass defense. Their pass defense, DVOA, number 1. Matthew Stafford goes out and has a 120-something passer rating, 127.8 passer rating. And it's because of Swift. It's because of him in the running game. It's because of him in the receiving game. And yes, you're absolutely right to criticize the Lions for waiting this long, but I'm happy that it's here. I'm happy that we're finally getting to see him involved in the receiving game. That's the one thing I had been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And let's hope we see more of it going forward.
Yep. Jeremy, what's your takeaway here?
I guess I'll stick with the optimistic takes here and just kind of build off of that with the offense, and just this offense has a chance again. This offense feels like it's okay again. Feels like it actually had a plan and a good game plan. And as I mentioned in our post-game plan, it wasn't just using Deandre Swift. It was also using him as a decoy. There were a couple really nice plays, I thought, that they drew up where he was, the target of a screen, but it was actually a screen over on the other end to TJ Hawkinson, or play action was pretty successful in this game. And Matthew Stafford, hell of a game, hell of a bounce back game after 2 disappointing performances back to back. And I think another, big facet of what worked today was the offensive line. We talked about it in First Bite, Ryan. The key to this game was protecting Matthew Stafford, and he only took 1 sack. 2 technically, the other one was negated by roughing the passer, but overall, pretty solid day with Ode Ibushi in there, of all people, at right guard, which is a surprise. So credit to the offensive line. They got 5.0 yards per carry as well. We knew they were going to try to run the ball a lot. They would have run the ball more if they had the ball more often. Didn't quite get to the 35 that I predicted. But overall, I was just very impressed with this offensive game plan. I know when it came down to it, they had 2 big 3-and-outs, and we'll talk about maybe what they screwed up on there. But overall, I was very impressed by the offense. And if they play like that the rest of the season, maybe you can afford having a really, really bad defense, because their defense is still really bad.
Imagine my shock on that, Jeremy, that you stop switching out offensive linemen more because of injury than I think what they plan to do. But imagine what happens when you stop switching out offensive linemen and you just let them be a unit. As we've had Lincoln Kennedy on our podcast before, like I think last year, former Raider offensive lineman. He does radio shows. He's color for the Raiders. And I remember having this conversation with him on Saturday morning, where I told him about, how the Lions rotate offensive linemen. And he just staunchly said, no, you don't do that. You don't rotate us out as linemen. We're not edge rushers. We're not we're not cornerbacks. We're not wide receivers. You keep those guys in the whole time. We'll have to see what the snap counts say when they come out. But I think a lot of that gelling on the offensive line did come because, again, either by design or by necessity, they had to stop rotating linemen, especially on that right side. I think that helped them out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Jeremy, back to what we were talking about on First Bite, and we were talking about how that Washington defensive line just full of first-round draft picks, from Jonathan Allen to Chase Young this year to Daron Payne. Like, if you would have told me that the Lions were going to average 5 yards a carry and Stafford was only going to get sacked once, I would have said that the Lions probably won this game by more than a score.
And they should have. I mean, just compare this to the Colts game. Like, that Colts D-line was the best that they had faced, and there was all sorts of issues. There was free runners. They got a little creative with the way, and maybe that was Washington's mistake, as they weren't necessarily as creative with their pass rush. They were just like, we're going to beat you face to face. And the Lions were like, nope, you ain't. But either way.
That's what I was so concerned about, though. That's what I was so concerned about, was the Colts game almost seemed kind of like a blueprint for a less talented team in Washington to come in here and do the same things that they did with their front seven. And give credit where credit's due. The Lions came up with a game plan where, oh, shocker, surprise, let's get the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hands quick.
And take some shots downfield. They did it. Mm-hmm. Not a ton, but they did.
There's a play action and some other cool stuff that they did. Yeah. And I mean, we'll get into a little bit of Penthouse Doghouse. I know we're not really doing it a whole for the entire segment for segment 2, but yeah, there's definitely some guys. Yeah, there's some guys who belong appropriately. Yeah.
I think I have to be the negative one for my takeaway, in that I think just the defense still scares the hell out of me. And it's in the regard, and I think this might extend the offense too. I know Jeremy and I were talking about it on the post game, but this team just seems to code change on everything as soon as they get more than 10 points on the lead. And I don't know why that is. We've talked about it all year, but it's more than just the offense slowing down on this game. This was also on the defense the entire day too. Like again, half the reason I'm poo-pooing Alex Smith a little bit here is that, look, I get it. He made a lot of completions. Through the third quarter, I think his only incompletions were to former Lion J.D. McKissick. And McKissick, other than those incompletions, had -2 yards rushing and a touchdown on the day. It was a bizarre stat line. But where the Lions did well on stopping the run on this, I think Terry McLaurin was basically contained decently, and Antonio Gibson didn't really do too much. I think he averaged like 3.5 yards. I'm just baffled watching some of this coverage play out, and I think it benefited us that the Fox crew today included Aqib Talib, who, according to Twitter, was fantastic. I watched a lot of it. I thought he was fantastic too. I don't know what you guys thought about him, but I felt that having a former cornerback, defensive backfieldman on the call did help to illuminate kind of the struggles of that backfield, and also just to have someone to give a voice to what coverages are, because I think fans, like, we talk a lot about, how predictable the man coverage is or not, or, actually the Lions are as bad at zone, but like, man, just, you saw guys playing off the receivers all the time. Alex Smith was getting to and the reason why he could complete a lot of those passes was because the defense was just sitting there and letting them complete to guys around the line of scrimmage right away, and then just not really getting on them to make tackles. Jamie Collins in particular, I know he had 13 tackles on the day, but he was really missing a lot there too. Okudah did not play well. I thought the defensive line played well. I thought Reggie Ragland had a good day. I thought Aquara had a good day. I thought Everson Griffin, not to spoil my penthouse doghouse, but Everson Griffin I thought was phenomenal, and I'll explain more of that later. But the back seven, I'm worried. I'm still worried about that, and I think that's how this game got closer than it should have been, is that for whatever reason, they take their foot off the gas just as much as the offense when a lead hits, and it needs an explanation for it.
Yeah, as Joey Sonner on YouTube says, missed tackles were a big story in this game for the Lions defense. They did take all that underneath stuff, and you knew they were, because they don't have a lot of downfield wide receivers, and the linebackers weren't tackling, and the corners weren't tackling, and the safeties weren't tackling. They were playing off their man
so far too.
And
I know they're playing zone in a few places, but still, like, they were taking advantage of that mismatch and just picking up yards after completion by the bunches.
Yeah, and I just the one thing I want to say is that I know on the surface it looked like the defense collapsed in the second half, but to me this defense didn't look good at any point in the game.
Yeah,
you look at that first half.
Outside of that first drive, they get the two.
Including the first drive, because they got all the way down to the 21-yard line. It was easy for the Washington to move the ball the entire game. The only time they got caught up is when they made mistakes on themselves. When they run a reverse to J.D. McKissick that goes for -10 yards. When Terry McLaurin fumbles in Lions territory. When they miss a field goal. All that stuff happens in the first half. None of it happens in the second half. And what do you have? Basically every single drive that I think they had in the second half went for points.
Shoot, they even looked like they were scared to hit Alex Smith now and then too. Like, they'd flush him out of the pocket, and I'd see 3 Lions kind of like watching him, waiting for him to throw, rather than someone go in and just try to put a move on him. Like, it's rough out there.
Yeah, I think that was one of the determining factors of the game that Jeremy just pointed out, but turnovers, right? I mean, the Terry McLaurin turnover was huge. Even the net negative plays, it seemed like Washington had a lot of plays. Chris talked about Alex Smith playing a really conservative game in terms of not really taking a lot of shots down the field early on in the game. I thought with how conservative Washington's approach was in that facet, and add to it the turnovers, that I think Washington, I'm not saying that, like, the Lions, like, I'm not saying that Washington lost this game, and I'm not saying that the Lions didn't win it, but I'm saying that they could have taken further advantage of this Lions defense, and I just don't think they did.
Right.
Well, yeah. No, we saw Alex Smith balling out in the fourth quarter. We saw him, that he realized then that, hey, I could have been doing this all game, throwing downfield on the Lions. They just didn't.
Right, and who knows how much of that is Matt Patricia? Aqib Talib mentioned it on the broadcast, but he's like, Matt Patricia's doing his thing where he plays man coverage and he's got guys in the middle, and that opens up opportunities to have Alex Smith take shots down the field. I don't know. It was an interesting game. It was an interesting game. It was a game the Lions needed to win, though, right?
Sure, of course. Here's the thing I think that bothers me defensively of how that game played in the second half is that usually when you're up 21-0 or up 21 points, I should say, that's a huge advantage for the defense, right? They're going to pass the ball. That's their game plan. That they're essentially going to have to abandon the running game and pass it a ton. And so what do? Well, we know what Matt Patricia does, and he did it again this game. Man coverage, 4-man rush. Let everyone do their job.
No blitz whatsoever.
No blitzing. They're passing the ball. Put a little heat on Alex Smith. I know he's a mobile quarterback. I know he got out of the pocket a lot in this game. But put a little pressure on him, man. He doesn't have a lot of weapons outside of Terry McLaurin. You bring the defense up a little bit. I know the worst thing that for Matt Patricia that can happen with a 21-point lead is to give up a big play quickly. But when you're getting gashed that quick, how quickly did Washington score after the Lions scored in the first drive of the second half? 11 plays, 82 yards, 528. So, it takes a little bit of time, but given that the Lions just couldn't have a stop, their next another 11-play drive only took 4.5 off the clock. Then their 6-play drive took less than 3 minutes off the clock. This bend don't break crap, it's not holding up. And it's really what the Lions like to play for all 4 quarters. But when the opposing offense realizes, hey, we don't need to run the ball. Let's just crank up the volume. Let's crank up the juice. Lions had no answer. They went no huddle in that second half, and the Lions were just on their heels the entire last 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah, it was brutal. I think we're going to be revisiting a lot of this when we do Penthouse Doghouse, because I'm sure there's a lot of people on the defense about ready to head to the doghouse, and a few people heading to the penthouse, including probably the hero of the game. When we come back on the Pride of Detroit POD cast, we're going to talk about that and explore some other facets of the game. And then later on the show, I know fans think that this game, I saw fans rooting against the Lions in this game just because they think it'll get Patricia out the door faster or it'll hurt the draft stock. I'm here to tell you why that's a little bit wrong. I don't think this helps them at all. I don't think it changes the outlook. And we're just going to just dive into all of that. Maybe allay your fears, maybe stoke them a little bit. Who knows? But we're enjoying the win. We're enjoying the win because wins are good at the end of the day. No Sam Hinkie, no Trust the Process here on the Pride of Detroit POD cast. We will be right back. Holy crap, Deandre Hopkins.
Chat, what are you doing? Chill out. And by chat, I mean only Reno. What's happening?
He caught a game-winning touchdown right now in triple coverage on a deep ball from Kyler Murray.
Really?
On a Hail Mary. 3 Bills boxing him in.
Here we go, Chad. I'll play it for you. 11 seconds left. Down by 4. 43-yard line.
Shotgun. Murray out of the pocket. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Murray heaves it downfield.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Deandre Hopkins.
Oh my God.
Dude, I told you, man.
Oh, there's still 1 second left though.
Magic.
Wow, hold on. Wow, look at that. That you can't even blame the defense for not having enough people back there. He's bracketed with a third guy coming in there with his eyes on the ball.
Yeah, can you go back to that? I want to see what Kyler was doing to keep. Can you go back to the snap itself? I want to see if Kyler was how he was keeping that alive.
Shotgun.
Yeah.
Murray.
Kind of ran himself into trouble there, but did a nice little juke on that guy.
He comes right off that guy comes right off the corner there, gets it right out there, and just
Also, really good job, running to your left like that, setting his feet so that he can lay that pass down.
Yeah, that's professional.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. Well, Lions are definitely going to get a win against a team with a winning record on the road. And the Cardinals. Stafford, stock up. Anything else interesting happening in these late games? Doesn't look like it.
Seattle's bad. Russell Wilson's bad.
Not good.
I mean,
So much for let Russ cook.
It was only a matter of time before that horrible of a defense caught up with him, right? Like, Russell Wilson can only do so much.
No, but Russell Wilson was really bad in this game.
He did have two interceptions.
Two interceptions and a fumble.
Oh, and 6 sacks. Holy cow. All right. Well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else other than, I guess, Jameis Winston once again became a meme today with his pregame dancing.
Yeah, what is Breeze back in that game yet, or is it still Jameis Winston?
No, it's still Jameis Winston.
Jeez, that could be interesting. That NFC South, not yet decided. All right. Yeah, I'm done navel gazing. Let's get back to this. Oh, let me bring
I'm sorry. Like I saw the play as Reno was like flipping out,
spazzing out.
Yeah, no, that's worth it. That's worth spazzing out over. That's insane. I hate to do it, but I am going to say Megatron-esque.
It was.
Been trying to tell y'all, DeAndre Hopkins, best receiver in the league.
I think I was right there with you. I think I had him. Pretty sure. All right.
I know it's not Mike Evans.
I can't believe we haven't talked about Matt Prater yet on the podcast. That needs to be the very first Penthouse.
No. Yeah. Right off the bat, like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I know that's a Disney show. I don't know what that means.
Sweet Life, sweet, the sweet.
Penthouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was flimsy.
I'm trying.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
And welcome back, Pride of Detroit PODcast, jumping along here as we move over to the Sweet Life for some of the Detroit Lions here, as we do Penthouse Doghouse. And I feel like we didn't talk about him at all in the takeaways. We're kind of taking him for granted. We did lead off the show screaming about him, and I feel like just right away we've got to give a universal Penthouse to Matt Bleepin, Big Bleep Swingin' Prater.
Unbelievable.
We all thought, everyone was saying what's wrong with Prater or he's done.
Not everyone. Not everyone.
Ryan, you kept the faith. You were underground, keeping the scriptures alive.
Yeah, let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about Matt Prater and the huge kick he made at the end of this game. He wins the game.
Made multiple big kicks too.
Absolutely, but a 59-yard field goal was the fourth longest made field goal in history as time expired. Prater is 22 for 22 on game tying or go-ahead field goals in the fourth quarter inside of or at the 2-minute warning in his career, 16 for 16 in regulation, 6 for 6 in overtime. So that's insane. As much as people want to they want to look at the right hand while the left hand is hitting them in the face, like, hey, the defense is terrible, but Matt Prater's missing field goals. Hey, guess what? He took care of business today. And he showed up when it was the most important. When the lights were its brightest, Matt Prater won the football game for the Detroit Lions.
He did.
There's no better way to say it, man. I mean, and let's talk about that game-winning field goal because it would have been good from 65. He would have been able to set a record with it because that thing hit the netting, a third of the way up the uprights. It was insane. Yeah. Like You felt like that was weeks of frustration that he put into that ball and sailed easily. There wasn't even a question once it got off his foot. You're just like, if that's long enough, it's good for sure. And we know Matt Prater has that legs. He's making 60 yards in the pregame. And, he had the, 52, 53-yarder earlier in the game that was also easily good. It's really good to see. He's a great story for the Lions. And like we said, like we've been so spoiled with kickers here in Detroit out of, anything. We've been the opposite of spoiled in just about every other aspect of the game, but to see Matt Prater go out there, redeem himself, and do it in such a ridiculous fashion. I mean, 17 seconds. That's almost like the Minnesota Vikings game. I'd have to go back and check what the time was on that one, but for the Lions to be able to drive in 17 seconds to get in field goal range and Matt Prater to do that was just that's why I'm still smiling, is because that was so much fun to me. Forget what happened in the previous 15, 20, 30 minutes of that game. That field goal was just great. It was I immediately thought of you too, Ryan, because you were the one slamming the table of just like, no, you guys need to realize how spoiled we are with Matt Prater. He misses a couple field goals. Certainly not what's holding the Lions back, because, I mean, you should be making touchdowns instead of field goals anyways. But yeah, redemption story in his 100th game as a Detroit Lion, his longest field goal as a Detroit Lion, and maybe most importantly of all, listen, the Lions aren't going to have any postseason accomplishments most likely, but Detroit might, because now Matt Prater leads Brandon McManus in the longest field goal of the season, which means we might get free Bud Light at the end of the year.
I'll pass on the Bud Light, thank you.
Free beer. Free beer.
Could we just say like,
bat?
I mean, I don't really care. I think beer is beer at that point. I mean, if it takes a field goal kicker kicking field goals, I think that winning by field goal is a lot like the Bud Light. It's like the Bud Light of beers. It's like that's like kicking field goals to win the game is a lot like Bud Light. But
Can you give me a Miller Light? Okay. But yeah,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Miller Lights are way. I mean, come on.
So
talking about
what's throwing to T.J. Hawkinson against Atlanta? Is that Jaeger
that's
shot?
Like no, that's a nice IPA. That's a nice IPA.
Founders.
Yeah.
Might be a dirty bastard, except probably repels Alex Reno.
This was kind of like, I mean, it was almost like shades of the Minnesota game from years ago, right?
Yeah,
when the Lions just barely got in field goal range and Prater boots that
to send it to overtime in that time, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nice for Prater to kick the field goals and make them when they're the most important. Because, I mean, he's done that how many times this year? The Atlanta extra point, that was what, a 48-yarder?
Yeah. He's clutch. It's clutch as hell.
He's clutch.
And, like, he was consistent today, too. Like, he had 3 field goals, and he made all of them. I think that one before the half, that was another one over 50 yards, wasn't it? It was like 53, I believe. 53 yards, I believe. Yeah. So he made 2 big ones. He made a short one. He has missed some short ones in past weeks, but if there's any problems, I don't see what the problem is. Clutch. And exactly what you needed there, man. Let's see. Do we have any other Penthouse Doghouse recommendations here? I might as well go and say my Penthouse right now is, I mentioned him earlier, but Everson Griffin. I know he didn't really have the revenge game we were all expecting him to have against the Minnesota Vikings, especially after he hyped himself up by getting like baboon ass red mad at Mike Zimmer for saying he's a good player. But he had 5 quarterback hits today. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. He was in that backfield making a mess of things. And him and Romeo Okwara, I mean, if you can make those 2 work at the right time, it's not going to be the best pass rush in the world, but it's a start. And Everson Griffin did have a little bit of that magic out there, in that he was harrying Alex Smith for a good portion of the day. And again, I am a thirsty man. I am a parched man in a desert looking for anything on the pass rush. I will take it.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of times in that second half they were just a half a second late from getting a strip sack. And the problem is that it's only coming from the edges. So it's only coming from Everson Griffin, and it's only coming from Romeo Okwara, both of whom I thought had a pretty good game. They need some interior pass rush, and they don't have it. And this is an ongoing theme. We like the play of John Pennicini and Deshaun Hand and even Danny Shelton in the run game. And again, the run defense rebounded after last week's disaster. But you don't expect a pass rush from 340, 350-pound guys. They need someone else in there, and they don't have it.
Yeah, and you wonder how much of that is just by design too, right? True. I mean, I can't think of a time in which the Lions under Matt Patricia have had that kind of interior pass rush. I mean, sometimes, the things that they do with Trey Flowers, if they want to kick him inside and try to get something going there, or I think back to Deshaun Hand, and I mean, he gets used kind of sporadically, but his rookie season with, Snacks and Ashawn Robinson, it seemed like the Lions had at least some semblance of push up front in the middle.
Yeah.
But now it seems like it's big mountain men meant to fill gaps.
Yeah, and maybe they missed Nick Williams a little bit in this game because he's kind of their pass rushing guy, but he's certainly not a guy that you can rely on consistently to get pass rush.
Jeremy, do you have someone in your penthouse, or should we move over to the doghouse side of this?
I mean, I just want to give it up again for the offensive line. I don't have a guy in particular, but I thought they were phenomenal. It is a unit, and there was a penalty here and there. I think Taylor Decker had a hold. I think Ode Ibushi had a hold. But overall, as a day, I think fantastic job, and to see it all work as it's supposed to against one of the best defensive lines in the game. That's promising. And we keep mentioning of the promising signs of the future. We keep looking to the future, obviously, because I think most of us still don't think there's a lot here in the present. If there's one positive for the future, it's that offensive line, and they showed why again today.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked a lot about, it's funny. I got into several conversations because over the weekend on one of the shows I do, the comp got made with Deshaun Watson to Matthew Stafford. And I know I hate this word so much, but the term, wasted of a career wasted kind of came up to kind of tie the two together. And a lot of the conversation was about how the Lions have or have not put parts around Matt Stafford. And again, part of what I was arguing is like, look, we know the right side of the offensive line hasn't been great, but they've gone out and they've gotten those resources out there, and Ragnow and Decker in the draft, and they've swung and missed in free agency, but there's a lot more about how this offensive line has been unnecessarily rotated more than it is about the talent sometimes. And they held their end of the bargain today. They've got, I think Taylor Decker is probably one of the best tackles, is up there. And I mean, I can't name a ton of tackles off the top of my head because I'm an idiot, but he's probably got to be one of the top left tackles in the game right now.
Yeah. And I mean, if you give any credence to PFF, he's definitely in the top 5. And Frank Ragnow's your number 2 center going into this week. So that alone, those are your 2 most important positions on the offensive line, left tackle and guard and center. And it looks like the lines are set there.
We just need to improve the guards and the right tackle, and that those guys, Ragnow and Decker, are guys who will be around for a good long time too.
Yep. And they just drafted 2 guards, so maybe they're okay there too.
Yeah, we'll see. Just need some time to gel as a unit. All right, doghouse time. Ryan, who you got?
Quintez Cephas.
Oof.
Real tough game for the rookie. Whether it was that deep shot that Matthew Stafford, sent his way on that final drive, where I really think that he should have had a shot to haul that in, to a drop pass that he had earlier in the game. Just not a great outing. I know he only had 1 catch for 10 yards, and I think he only had 2 or 3 targets, but I think without Kenny Golladay in there, people had this expectation that Quintez Cephas was going to come in and maybe be as targeted as he was in week 1 against the Bears, or, he was at least going to come in and serve a larger role. I think it's pretty clearly the Marvin show. Marvin Jones, Marvin Hall, those 2 guys are your top 2 wideouts. You got Danny Amendola in the slot and TJ Hawkinson. Quintez Cephas is a rookie, and he played like a rookie today. So he's a doghouse candidate for me.
Jeremy, who you got?
Feel like I have to go someone in the secondary, and I mean, Desmond Trufant doesn't deserve the pass interference on the 4th down there. The game should have been over right there. It's a horrible call, but if we're taking the full game into mind here, Terry McLaurin was just way too much for him. He was not good in this game, and it's tough to rag on the guy because it's a tough matchup for him, and because it's more than just him that's struggling in the secondary. Okuda was struggling, Amani Oruwariye was struggling. Really, no one was getting their hands on the ball. Again, 2 passes defended for the entire game, and they threw it 55 times. If you're only getting your hand on 2 balls out of 55 catches, there is an issue. This team hasn't had an interception in 3 or 4 weeks. This team isn't getting any coverage that seems like they're forcing any incompletions. And I think the latest culprit is Desmond Trufant.
Yeah,
two
I
pass
agree.
breakups in 55 pass attempts.
Again, a lot of those pass attempts are like, in places where the backfield can't really get to them, though, Jeremy.
Sure.
But late game, you had opportunities, so you just weren't getting on your men.
Nope.
And again, you're letting up those big plays to Alex Smith, of all people. Alex Smith.
You hate Alex Smith.
No, I'm sorry. Like, I know he's a great story. That doesn't automatically make him a great quarterback.
He's always been above average, and I think he still is.
He's been an above average game manager, Jared.
No, don't do that.
Doghouse for me. I'm kind of out of options here. We've kind of like run down the gamut on everyone.
Can you put yourself in the doghouse for your Alex Smith take?
No, absolutely not. I could go Jaron Curse, but I feel like I'm just dunking on the secondary at that point. You know what I'm gonna do? I hate to do this. Officials, like, man, late in the game, some of those calls were just brutal. I hate to rag on officials because I know their job is tough and everything, but like, man, are you serious on some of these calls? Are you serious on calling that a forward pass on that really weird handoff lateral? That's got to get looked at there. That was not a forward pass at all, and you called it like that. That pass interference on, I mean, God, Jeremy, you had the stats. How many? What was it that? How many incompletions did Alex Smith? Yeah,
on his 17-yard drive that tied up the game with the field goal, 8 straight incompletions from Alex Smith.
And they were still getting downfield because of the holding call, because of the pass interference call. Both them extremely ticky-tack. That you put the game in the officials' hands to end this near the end of this game. Like, come on.
I mean, quite literally in their hands when the pass interference call was on 4th down.
Yeah. I can't believe they called that. Like,
that was so ticky.
I don't know if you guys are in favor of calling the game differently in crunch moments. They talk about it all the time in basketball, right? Like, on the last possession, you can pretty much do whatever you want to the guy carrying the ball. 4th down though, like 4th down, I feel like it needs to be a little bit looser, period.
I wouldn't have even called it on 1st down to start the game.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's just, it's insane. I feel like I'm going to be up here every week complaining about pass interference and how they've made the job impossible for defensive backs. That seems especially true for Detroit since their defensive backs are already really bad, and the only thing they can do to kind of even the playing field is to hold up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just an awful call in an awful moment to extend a game that should have been over 30 minutes before that.
Once again, another reason why I like Aqib Talib on color for this game, because as a defensive backfield himself, he's definitely not having just some of these calls too. He did not think that was PI on that call either, but a little bias there. Brian, what did you have?
I like to keep Talib on color today. I think that he was I appreciated the moments where he kind of like removed himself and like talked about how cool it was to be like talking to Mike Pereira and all these other little moments that are like clearly booth things that happen. And it was cool that you kind of got that perspective of, not only was he a football player, but he was also like a fan of the game, because he would constantly be like, yeah, like I always, would be at home watching the game, and they would kick it to like the command center or whatever, and they would talk to Pereira about calls and stuff. And I think it was specifically the Terry McLaurin fumble, where it was such a bang bang play. And if that doesn't get called a fumble on the field, I don't know if they overturn that and call it a fumble.
Right.
And Talib was talking about, for as much crap as referees get, that was such a bang bang play. And he did a good job of like towing that line of like not being like too much of a player's player to like also kind of like being a company man, because he's clearly trying to like get a job like in the booth. But
I think he got it today. Most of Twitter thought he got it too. He's honestly been the best Fox color broadcaster we've had for Lions games.
Yeah, he was way more on than he was off. That's for sure. So
yeah. Yeah, Twitch chat is also saying Penthouse Aqib Talib.
There you go.
Hopefully he could make his way on the Lions roster.
Listen to you. I think he'd do that rather than I think you got to keep him in the broadcast booth at that point, but
I don't think that guy would ever see eye to eye with Matt Patricia. If you want to
He's
talk
already
about what
played
we're going to
with
get into our third segment.
Wait, he's played with him already, hasn't he? Didn't they overlap in New England? I feel like they did.
Yeah, I wonder how.
I think he was with the Broncos by then.
I don't know.
I don't know, but either way, it couldn't have been good. Come on, a guy who is heralded and widely known for ripping Michael Crabtree's chain off of his neck. You think that's a Matt Patricia guy?
For the record, they did overlap in 2012 and 2013.
Cool. 8 years ago.
You know what? Let's get the band back together. Why not? You know what? The defensive backfield is that bad. Let's get Aqib Talib out of the booth. It's not unprecedented. Jason Witten's lining up on that Raiders line.
He was looking for a job as late back as September. He was still trying to get it, and he moved into the broadcast booth because there are some guys in the league like that. I know I worked with Justin Blackman, I think last year, who was still hoping to, I think maybe get back into the league at some point then. I know he was kind of old by then, but like there are guys who are just really trying to bide their time and they do diversify into media, just hoping that, they'll diversify a bit before they can jump back in. And sometimes that call comes, sometimes it doesn't. But
this whole time, people were talking about looking at the broadcast booth for the next coach. Should have been looking for the next corner.
We're just looking at the broadcast booth for all of our answers.
Yeah.
The Lions Twitter wants Louis Riddick to be the GM. They want a new coach from the broadcast booth.
We'll pass on Chris Spielman though.
Tony Dungy. How many years until we do like the Barry Sanders thing and finally come to the acceptance he's never coming back with Tony Dungy?
Yeah, well, Bill Polian, Brian Billick, they're on the CBS crews.
I definitely want Chris Spielman to be the strength and conditioning coach.
He might take that job. Be careful what you wish for. All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show with a in-depth conversation that we want to have because I know some fans weren't happy with the result of this game because they're being maximalist. And I'm here to tell you why I don't think this game changes anything about the fates for Patricia and Bob Quinn. We're going to explain that and talk about an article that came out this week in regards to Matt Patricia when we come back here on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Quick break here.
All right. Quickly, LJ, thank you for the 12 months. Been around for a year, LJ. It feels like even longer. Nice. You've been a huge supporter of the channel, so thank you for the resub, and thanks for all your support throughout the day. Let me go through chat here really quick. We're getting a lot of good stuff from YouTube as well. Speaking of broadcast booth hires,
Leonard Floyd has 6 sacks today.
How would you feel about Daniel Jeremiah as the new GM? I mean, we're just following the Raiders game plan.
Mike Mayock, the Mike Mayock thing.
Essentially,
sure,
I mean,
why not?
The Raiders don't look bad.
You know what, Daniel Jeremiah was the guy who was like the highest on TJ Hawkinson. I remember too, like in the pre-draft process. I think he said that he was like the best tight end he ever scouted.
Well,
I mean, it looks like he's right.
Yeah. What did Hawkinson do today?
2 for 13 or something. Wasn't part of the game plan. It was all Deandre Swift all the time.
He was almost outpaced by Jesse James, 2 catches for 9 yards.
Jesse James off a bloody milk carton coming into this game.
This was the first game in Hawkinson's 2020 career in which he didn't have either 50 yards or a touchdown.
Bust.
I hate you. I hate you so much.
Adrian Peterson was only targeted 1 time. I feel like that's a huge victory.
It was early in the game, like, oh god, they're doing this again.
Yeah, I know. It was really early, and it was a catch. It went for like 9 yards, and I was like, God damn it! Like,
yeah, there was that point where they had been feeding Swift all day, and then all of a sudden, I think on this, what was it, on the second or third series, all of a sudden, all those handoffs are going to Adrian Peterson, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he bitched enough on the sideline.
No, I mean, I was shocked when that report came out a couple hours before game time. That was like, oh yeah, Swift is going to start. By the way, you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah, and what was that? I saw more reporting on that. Wasn't it that Swift knew that he was going to be the starter earlier in the week, like as early as like Wednesday or something?
Yeah, I think he said that in the post game, and that just goes to show you what I said earlier. Like, he was the game plan today. He was the offensive game plan today. They're like, we are finally unwrapping this gift, and Merry Christmas. Christmas came early. That naughty old elf.
Remember when I was killing him for the drop too? Like, drop in the bucket. I do think he's different from Carry On and from Amir Abdullah. But I mean, it's only 1 year. We'll see. But
the thing that really
hasn't had an injury yet. So
yeah, there's that. The thing that really just gets me more interested than anything else is him in the receiving game. I think that could be huge. It's something that they didn't really use Carry On a lot.
Kind of like a Theo Riddick type of thing, except he can actually run the football as well.
Yeah. Wait.
I think I saw more than a few people say a poor man's Alvin Kamara.
Wait, why are you saying no free beer for us? Did McManus kick something more than a 59-yarder?
Yeah, I think it was a 61-yarder this year.
But no, it's just between him and McManus. It doesn't matter.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Don't scare me like that, chat. It's just a 1v1. 1v1. What are we listening to? Are we listening to a voicemail?
No. It was
Instagram. Just that catch by Hopkins has just got to remind you again that the Texans traded him away.
We're gonna watch it again during this break. Yeah. Oh, we got a donation. Oh, LJ with the $100 donation to our I almost said mustache, our Movember campaign. Look at that. LJ.
What's our total at right now? I'm a little nervous that I'm gonna have to eat some candy corn.
We're at 165, so you got a little wiggle room, but we're only halfway through the month. If you haven't seen it, by the way, guys, we are doing a Movember campaign. ! Donate. We'll get you the link. I will throw it in YouTube as well, really quick. 1 second. As you can see on the screen, we got a bunch of milestones that we can hit, where we do some funny stuff for you guys. That should go both to YouTube and Twitch if you need the link. $500 Ryan will fill his mouth with as much candy corn as will fit, and he hates candy corn because he has taste buds. If we get to 100, he will shave the beard and leave the mustache.
If it's got to be candy corn, we've got to make it that Brock's Brunch flavored candy corn.
No. So wait, if they get to 1,000, yes. I will shave this and leave my mustache.
Yep. If we get to 2,500, I should say, these are getting shaved right here. And then if we get to 5,000, Ryan will wax one of those nips. Or both. Will you go both?
No.
Gotta be both.
No. We have to vote, left or right. It's kind of like the Twix.
But I think the point of the Twix thing is that they're both left nipple or they're both right nipple.
Depends on how you're looking at them.
Mm-hmm. Is that done tonight if we hit 500? I doubt it. I don't think Ryan has the candy corn available at the moment.
I do have candy corn.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
No. Let's do this. If we get to 300 tonight, I'll do the candy corn.
Oh, screw the 500?
Screw the 500. If we get to 300 tonight, I'll do the candy corn. Okay,
so a just for tonight discount of $200.
I'll take $200, yeah.
Chat, if we get to 300, which is another 135. Ryan will essentially chug candy corn for you. Yeah, we did see the DeAndre Hopkins catch, and yes, we're going to watch it again right now because Arizona put out a video of every single angle from this play, and I want to see it, so we're going to see it.
I love how DeAndre Hopkins is tweeting out videos of him making the catch that say, "Don't ever say it's impossible," and and he's also one that says, "Never panic."
All right, here we go.
And Deandre Hopkins is the man.
That is just insane. Wow, he almost dropped it too. Like that was almost ripped away from him.
It's kind of hard not to even got three guys all flying on his back. Not to take the Darren Ravel route, but I saw a screenshot. I saw a picture from this game because he's got Jumpman gloves on, and every glove around him is like Adidas and Nike. And someone did point out, like, Jumpman brand is about to have a week with this.
Wow, he actually doesn't ever let go of that either. That last angle to me is super telling. He grabs it there, and that ball is never loose from here on out.
Yeah.
Those are strong friggin' hands. The ref almost ate it there, did he? Did he trip on the pylon almost? Oh, there, right there. Whoa.
He's trying to get the right angle. It's like, what?
Man, I mean, how do you let that happen as a defense? How do you stop that as a defense? How do you play that any better? Honestly,
up there, man. Like, yeah, you literally, to do that better, you have to like smack Hopkins in the face. That's all you can do.
That was insane. I mean, that's full on Calvin Bengals catch. It's essentially the exact same.
Yeah, ESPN tweeted out something like that, like the side by side.
Yeah.
Did they? I want to go see that.
It's insane. When's POD playing Among Us on Twitch? We've played it a little bit. I haven't played it in a while. Part of it is that Alex was displaced from his house for a little bit. I think he's back now. Yeah. So he's probably willing to play. But yeah, we might get that going. We'll definitely be playing a lot of games during the offseason. Big Al with the $50 donation to our Mustache Movember Fund. $215, which means we're only $85 away.
I do need to.
I just sent it to the Slack, Chris, if you want to see it. But it's just ESPN saying same.
Oh
energy.
yeah, I see that now. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. I do want to get this out though because A, I want to see Sunday Night Football, and B, again, as I said, I've got some sort of like infection going on or something, which is causing my ears to ring really loudly. So I do want to.
Okay, yeah, let's jump back into it.
With all the other, I've got to write like 8 different things tonight. So
it means you're running low on time, chat. $85 is all we need for men's
I'll
health.
let you guys hang around. Don't mind me. I'll watch from the sidelines. I'm just yeah. Don't want to sundown. All right. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
$35.
Pull up that article first too.
$35 donation from LJ again. Now we're 30 away, chat. 30 away.
I'm just gonna go get them right now.
I wish I could like, I don't know, get you guys to. That's why.
Oh yeah.
20 from Indigo. 10 away. Is that right? 10 away? I feel like that's right. 10 away. Why isn't it updated in the top left? Or maybe that included it already. I can't remember where we were at, chat.
Once he comes back, I want to start rolling. So
Okay. It updates early. Okay, so we're still 30 away. Got it. Thank you for the follow, Zach Attacks. Welcome to the Pride. Welcome to our Twitch channel. There it is. Why do you have that? Ryan,
Trash.
why do you
What?
have that?
Because I have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old who's learning how to potty train right now.
So are you trying to incentivize them, or is that like the negative reward? Like, oh, you pissed your pants, you got to eat candy corn?
I'm shoving candy corn in their mouth. Be damned if you ever do it again. No.
let's get this.
They like candy corn. Come on. If you're a 4-year-old, you like sugar.
That's a good point.
This is true.
Oh, we hit it. It hasn't popped
Okay.
up yet, but someone gave 25. Do you want to do it now? We'll wait.
Oh yeah.
We'll do it after the
Sorry,
last
I want to
segment.
get this done.
Amy,
Sorry.
thank you for the 35. We're doing the candy corn after the third segment. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
And welcome back, Pride to Detroit PODcast. Wrapping up here the Lions' victory over football team. I'm never going to get tired of saying that.
It's fun.
I think even the PA announcer was like touchdown football team at Ford Field today.
I love it.
That's going to be their name in 2021 as well. Like, we might as well just make it permanent. I'm just saying. It's endearing in several ways. All right. So I know you guys saw this because I definitely saw it in my Twitter. If I saw it on my Twitter, I'm sure you guys saw it on your Twitter. Fans mad about this win, or terrified about this win, or believing that it honestly gets in the way of some grander project of trying to see Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn let go. Now, we're not going to talk about whether or not they deserve to remain or not, because I think at this point, the writing is kind of on the wall that this isn't going to really turn around without some sort of mission from God to like salvage the long-term prospects of the Boston boys. Am I at least correct on that before I continue?
I mean, I think so. Obviously, you never know. There is essentially still a full half season left, but I look at the last 4 games on the schedule of the Lions, and I think, well, if they're struggling this much to beat a Washington team, and most of their wins this season are against bad teams, except for that one Arizona game. Like, do I really think they stand a chance against Green Bay or Tennessee or the Bucks? Even Minnesota again. I mean, we saw how they played against Minnesota. Not exactly looking forward to that game again. So, I mean, the defense, as we said, still really, really, really bad. The offense might start figuring things out if they get Kenny Galladay back, if they have Deandre Swift as part of the big game plan. They might be able to get things going, but do I have hope that this team really contends for the playoffs? No. I think they'll probably fall back, if not next week, maybe the week after, and we'll be right back to the fire everyone type of attitude that we were all at.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we talked about in the mailbag, you even said 8-8 isn't good enough. I don't even know what is good enough. Even if they make the playoffs, I don't even know if that's good enough, just by body of work at this point. I know, like, getting the playoffs kind of cures a lot of things, but I mean, honestly, I feel that it's just too brutal, and I'll explain why in a bit. Ryan, are you at least on board on the concept that it's like it's going to take a lot to change the fates for these guys, to change your mind at least right now?
When you give up 390 passing yards to a guy who needs to wear a brace so that he can, not have his drop foot affect him, come on.
See, I knew you were on my side. I'm kidding. Anyway, so here's what I'll say to people who are scared about that. This game changes nothing because everyone saw it, man. It's not like, oh, wow, hey, look, the Lions won a game. Hooray. No, we all saw how bad the defense was. We saw the Lions choke away these leads. As Jeremy said, it's not going to get easier on the schedule either. Like, they all see what the deficiencies of this team is. This team, when it's winning games this year, it's doing so with some incredible luck and some clutch skills at the right point. But by all means, that's not a winning recipe.
It's not.
And if 9-7 wasn't good enough for Caldwell in his last year, I'm not sure what's good enough for Patricia right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to talk about like this whole consistent blowing huge leads, and a lot was made out of 10-point wins, giving up 10-point wins, and to me that's not a big deal. That's how the NFL works these days. No lead under 14 is safe. But now we're talking about 3-score leads. I think this is the third game in which they've blown a 3-score lead. And I think most of it is just really bad defense, because when teams are deciding, hey, we got to throw the ball, the Lions just can't stop that. In previous weeks, I think maybe it was a little bit of coaching in terms of like they let their foot off the gas offensively. I don't think that was the case this week. And I know we're talking more long-term stuff than, just this game. But in this game alone, like, those 2 3-and-outs that they had on offense, 5 of those 6 plays were pass plays. They tried. They got a bad holding penalty that put them behind the sticks, and they didn't really have the effective play calls, I guess. But I don't know. Talking big picture though, I mean this game doesn't feel any different than any we've seen this year. I liken it a lot to the Chicago Bears game, week 1. It looked like they were performing pretty well defensively through 3 quarters. They got out to a nice, healthy lead on offense against a good defense, and then you make Mitchell Trubisky look like a god. And then you make Alex Smith look like a god. And the difference in this game is essentially Deandre Swift doesn't drop the pass this time. That's it. It's the same. We haven't seen any progress in this team, really, outside of Deandre Swift. We haven't really seen any improvement defensively. If anything, it might be getting worse. So, I mean, yeah, long term, this is still the same team. They're eventually going to slip up against a bad opponent, and they're going to lose probably pretty badly to some good opponents down the line. Doesn't mean I'm not going to enjoy this week. I am, but if you have any disillusions that this helped Matt Patricia stay a little bit longer, maybe it did in the short term, but long term, you have to imagine when this season goes south, and it really feels like it will eventually, further south, I should say. It's 4-5 isn't exactly Candyland, but yeah, once it goes further south, it does feel like the writing's just kind of on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know what can change them at this point. I thought they were gonna, they'll at least make it. I've always thought at least until Thanksgiving, probably until the end of the year. So nothing's really changed for me on when I expect them to be let go, and I expect them to be let go. Caldwell's record in 2017 didn't change his fate at all either, and I think there's just been too much stain out there as far as the misses in the drafts, the misses on the free agency. Some of these games that have just gotten them beat up really badly. I don't know if the patience is really there right now, and I think Sheila Ford Hamp will want to put her own stamp on the team at some point too. Ryan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think what you just said, Chris, about Jim Caldwell and 9-7 not necessarily saving his job. I don't think that there's a win total that really saves Matt Patricia's job. I just know that, nothing that's realistic. Like, let's be honest. I mean, this team isn't making the playoffs. This team isn't coming close to sniffing the playoffs. And with that being said, I don't think that Patricia and Quinn can use any kind of excuse of COVID off season or, whatever it is. I don't see those as viable excuses to keep them around. I don't think you have a fan base that will buy into that. And I think that's the most important thing, is that whatever the Lions do decide to do with Quinn and Patricia, this fan base is so clearly fed up with them that there's no realistic thing that they can do to win them back. And I think that ownership has to take that into account, and they have to be seeing that, and they have to be taking notice of that.
Yeah, I mean, even this win, I feel like there's almost more frustration out of Lions fans. I mean, you came into the podcast with that same frustration. Like, this team blew a 21-point lead against one of the worst offenses in the league. Like, you can't ignore that. That context has to be there with the W. The fact that this team had a win all wrapped up in the first half and just gave it away piece by piece in that second half.
The overarching argument on Twitter and on other social media was, and I'm sure it's going to be on the Sports Talk Radio in Detroit on Monday too, and I know that that particular station tends more cynical as well, as that, look, you've and I saw this out of some other cynical people on Twitter as well. It's like, look, this win, I don't like this win. As a fan, I don't like this win. Not me, but people on Twitter are saying, as a fan, I don't like this win because I feel like it gives Patricia more time, and I don't want Patricia to have more time. When your fan base is telling you, regardless of your record, I don't trust you, that's bad. And we've talked about this before, Jeremy, about how this does affect the bottom line for the Lions quite a bit now, especially when you've got the fan base in near revolt. I don't think they're going to do anything as cringy or stupid as the Millen Man March. And yes, I am going to call that stupid. Millen was bad, but I'm not. I think that was a lot of, bloody navel gazing. But I don't think it's inescapable right now. And I think part of the reason it's inescapable is because just this week we've had another article come out. Bleacher Report. This is by Kaylin Collar. I'm not sure how to say her name. I apologize. Called "When the Patriot Way Goes Wrong," and she talked with a lot of people who have been through Detroit, who have had reservations or misgivings or problems with how Patricia in past years has dealt with his locker room. And there's quite a few names in here. Like we all know about Quandre Diggs actually didn't talk to them about this. I don't but like Zach Zenner's name shows up in this. And Glover Quinn shows up in this. And they're both saying stuff like that, he kills, he killed a lot of the music. He would come in late to meetings and then, yell expletive. All right, expletive. Let's sit down and shut up and let's get to it. Acting like he wasn't just late. And all sorts of other things that just drove guys away. Or, in the case of Glover Quinn, talking about how a lot of the reason why he didn't come back was because that he was a veteran voice that they felt that they couldn't control. And that kind of stuff, that kind of reporting does kind of put a stain on you after a while, I'm sure. But that's not an excuse for this year. Let's be clear about that. That's not an excuse for this year. Although this is all in the past, but still, it still doesn't look good. And players still talk, and it can't look good for your future on attracting some of that talent to Detroit.
Yeah, and that was one, I think, one of the interesting points of the article is that she had talked to a couple agents that were just like, yeah, some of my players talked around with players who had been there and just like, no, I don't want that in my life. But I think that last point that you brought up is really kind of the most salient for me, because a lot of the issues that were brought up in that article came from year one. And I think now it's been very, 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 very well documented how much of a disaster that year one was. He screwed up. He was way too aggressive. He was way too dictatory on a roster that was just coming off of, the complete opposite in Jim Caldwell. He did change, and players admitted he changed. Zach Zenner was a guy who said, yeah, it was a huge change, and I actually respected what he did in terms of changing from year one to year two. But again, some of the harm had already been done. And then you get to year three. Well, now the buy-in is there. Everyone is buying in. Everyone agrees with Matt Patricia. He's got all of his guys in the locker room, and where are the Lions? No better.
Yeah,
and
listen,
that to me is the damning thing. Is he finally got the culture where he wanted to be, finally got the players that know his scheme, that know he's a hard ass and like it, and we're still getting nowhere.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not going to kill him too much for the stuff, although, we've known for years this doesn't work in the NFL. Power structure works very differently in the NFL, especially if you're not in an organization that's promising you wins like the Patriots. We saw it with Nick Saban, one of the greatest coaches right now. Nick Saban couldn't cut it in Miami because he just didn't know how to treat the guys in Miami with the Dolphins with respect. That happens. And Ricky, to be fair, this article also Kalen also talked with Ricky Jean Francois, who was in defense.
Yeah, he's one of those Patriot guys.
And he even said about the showing up late and it's like, all right, bleep head, sit down kind of thing. It's like, that's how he talks to you.
Yeah.
Granted, understood. But let me just put it this way. If I went up to a random person on the street and just started busting their balls like I do some of my best friends, I expect to get punched in the face, not for them to take it as me busting their balls. There's different attitudes that take in different places, and maybe he just wasn't wise to that yet. I don't know. It just, I don't know. Ryan, where are you on this?
I think my biggest takeaway was the comments from Glover Quinn about how much work Matt Patricia said had to be done when he first got to Detroit. And I know that got the soundbite from Dan Orlovsky all riled up, and honestly, who gives a shit about what Dan Orlovsky thinks? But what Glover Quinn said, his perspective was really salient. And what he said essentially was, they felt like they had already done a lot of culture changing under Caldwell, that Detroit was starting to not be viewed as the laughing stock of the league, that, it wasn't being viewed as the armpit of the NFL at that point. And then all of a sudden you get a new guy come in, and this new guy says, I'm going to tear everything down and we're going to rebuild this culture in my view. And Glover Quinn, and I think a lot of guys who had been in Detroit for a while, kind of looked at each other and said, well, I think we were heading in the right direction already. We just need somebody to get us over the hump, which is something that Glover Quinn said. And they didn't need to completely start over at ground zero. They needed to take that next step. And it seemed like Patricia wanted to start over from scratch. And that's why, for as asinine as Matt Patricia sounded when after that New Orleans loss, he said, I came to Detroit and there was a lot of work to do. Well, and yeah, and Matt Patricia said there was a lot of work to do because he had to completely clean house and get all the guys in that he needed. So from Matt Patricia's perspective, yeah, that's a hell of a lot of work to do.
Yep.
From all the guys that were already in that locker room that were experiencing success under Caldwell, and they could feel things changing in Detroit. They just needed to get over that hump. That I honestly think that like that would feel like a smack in the face to all the. I mean, you're kind of like spitting on all of our efforts.
Yeah, it's funny. Not to go too pathological for me, but I remember, I used to do Taekwondo when I was in like, middle school or so. And we had one guy for a long time, kind of just, chummy older guy, just kind of, horse around with him a little bit and just very fun kind of, sessions and everything. I remember when he quit and the classes went over to someone else. And we always had this one guy who would go and like, he wasn't all there in the head. But, this kid would go and like smack into, we had a practice mat up against the wall. He'd always go and run straight right into it as soon as he got upstairs. And that was always something that the old guy tolerated. But when the new guy come in, he immediately barked at him and made him do like, 30 push-ups because he didn't like that kind of horsing around. I didn't see that kid after that incident. Like those kind of mood swings, like you've got to be careful when you come in to change all those mood swings. And when you've got a good thing going, the last thing you want to do is mess with it. And yeah, I think when Patricia was brought in, it was to win games, not to change the culture. And I mean, God, this is a staple in like literally every sports movie out there, right?
Yeah. I kind of bridge what you two were talking about there.
Yeah, we got to bring it back to the present a little bit.
Well, yeah, but I'm just really quick, like Matt Patricia, I think he views you're either a middling team or you're an elite team. And what the Lions were a middling team under Caldwell. And I think we can all agree that, right? Like they were a middling team. They were 9-7, they were 10-6, they were 6-10, whatever.
We've always said in this podcast is that they underperformed with the talent that they had.
Right. But I think Patricia, it's almost like the Ricky Bobby. You're either first or you're last. So if the Lions aren't first, if they aren't amongst those elite teams, then they needed a fundamental change.
You could be second. You could be third. Heck, even fourth.
But he doesn't want that. He wanted a team that is among the Steelers. That's there every year. And in his mind, it's not about talent. It's not about, just building on what they have. It's about fundamentally changing this franchise from what they would. And I think that's why a lot of people bought into him at first, is because a lot of people saw this franchise as a sorry franchise for the past 60 years and saying like, listen, these players are a bit too chummy. These players are a bit like they need to realize this is a business and this is, this you have to be serious and this is work and no playing and no celebrating and no playing ping pong. And listen, I'm not advocating for anything. I know you can build I think both ways work, and I don't think either way should be completely shunned, because you see it in Seattle. You see them having a lot of fun over in Seattle and it being successful, and you see hard asses like the Patriots work. I don't know if I have an overall point here other than like I get what Patricia was trying to do. I get why some people bought into it right away. I was probably one of them, honestly. But he didn't go about it in the most sensitive way, and it resulted in players popping champagne after the first year just because the season was over.
Well, I think the one other thing, too, to that point, Jeremy, is how tone deaf do you have to be coming into a city like Detroit and not recognizing that being a middling team was a huge improvement over the past 50 years. Like being a middling team, being a team that was on the cusp of being very good was a great place to be as a Lions fan. Like it sucked.
That's not where the goal is though.
No, but the field goal post move, right? Like they moved with Jim Schwartz and then they moved again with Jim Caldwell.
Yep.
And I think for Matt Patricia to come in and just not acknowledge those field goal posts moving and just saying like my way is going to be the best way to do it. Everybody sit down and shut the fuck up is one of the quotes that Matt Patricia says in the article.
When he was running late.
Yeah, as he's running late to practice and things like that.
Guys recognize that, man.
Sure.
His ATV probably broke down. But I think that coming into a situation like that and not acknowledging the steps that the team had taken over the past decade, I think that's kind of on Patricia.
I get that.
Yeah, and again, to tie it back to the present, I think that's going to be considered in whatever evaluation comes at the end is like, look, it not only was it, a middling team to suddenly now it's boom or bust. And I mean, we haven't even seen a boom yet. He's just hoping for the boom. But at the same time that you've also kind of got this mud in the water and told Pete and got agents saying like, hey, you probably shouldn't go play in Detroit. That's a not a great place. And the fact that you have so many of these guys who are sticking away. I mean, God, we can't go a single week without hearing something about Calvin Johnson. I know fans are turning on Calvin Johnson, but guess what? Calvin Johnson's like kvetching probably stops once the Boston boys are gone.
Maybe
you get that stain off you. Maybe. I'm just saying, if the next person in changes things, I know we talked a little bit about what Rod Wood, the president, has on his hands about that. But at the same time, like you do resolve a lot of this depending, and I get it. He's made a lot of strides, and the article acknowledged that. He's made a lot of strides to change things. But it might be too little too late, especially when you combine it with the win records.
Right. And that's all that's important, right? Like, okay, maybe in retrospect we don't agree with his decision to uproot the roots of this organization, put in his own game plan, his own floor, his own blueprint, everything, upholding everything. Maybe that wasn't the right decision at the time, but if it was, we should have seen results by now. All of his past transgressions, let's throw it behind him. Whatever. He was an asshole in his first year. He learned to get better. All of that, let's put behind him. By now, we should have seen results. If the whole process was worth it, there should be results by now, and this is a 500 team at best, which is right where the team was when he took over. And so it wasn't worth it. And maybe
wasn't good enough.
I can't pretend like I know what Sheila Ford Hamp is like. Maybe she sees this team finish 7-9 and says, you know what? That's progress from 3-12-1. Maybe she does buy into the process. But I think the most damning thing about this franchise right now is that the defense is god awful, and he's a defensive coach. What else can you give him? What amount of time does he need to build a defensive roster that can play well? You look at the guys that they've added through the draft. You look at the guys who they've added in free agency. There's nothing for the future there.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. I think that's probably the best place to... I hope this sparks a bit of a conversation. Again, I know fans are kind of terrified and scared of their shadow. The fact that they think the worst thing that could happen is the Lions win too much and this somehow brings a coach back should tell you all where the mood is at. But again, hey, I like the wins where we can get them. They're fun. We have fun on Sunday. We have fun on Monday. And then we go right back to grousing a little bit for the rest of the week. But we're going to wrap the POD cast here. Thanks for everyone for watching on Twitch and YouTube. We're now streaming live on YouTube as well as Twitch. We're going to get off the air here. We've got a Movember campaign going on Twitch where I think Ryan now has to shove a bunch of candy corn in his mouth.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yep, we're going to do that. If you're listening on the recorded podcast, thank you as always. Continue to download. I love you there. I know we talk a lot about Twitch, but we need these downloads as much from you guys. You guys give us a ton of listeners who download us every week. So yeah, you rock. You all rock. We'll do some fun things in the future here. And as always, as we sign out, for myself, for Jeremy Reisman, for Ryan Matthews, we will see you Starside. Okay.
All right, stick around Twitch and YouTube. We got ourselves a snuff film coming up.
Jesus, you're gonna get this thing kicked off the air.
You gotta count. Don't just dump them in your mouth. We gotta count them.
Yeah, Jeremy, can you do me a huge solid tonight? By the way,
sure. Post.
Could you write the post? Could you write the post for the podcast?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna let you guys get to that. I, however, am going to log off because I'm not. I need to get some like. Wow.
Two. Okay.
You got to squirrel it, man. It's gonna take forever.
I love it.
Whole bag, you got.
I gotta give the people what they want. 4.
Are you chewing these things or what?
No,
just seeing how many fit in his mouth.
I'm housing them. 5.
I don't want to watch this degeneracy. I want no part in this.
Right.
God have mercy on all your souls.
Later, buddy.
Thanks everyone. I'll be around later. Again, join our Discord. We'll chat there. We'll probably be watching Monday Night Football tomorrow. For anyone who's interested, If not, then we'll catch you on stuff. I want to start streaming for myself, but
Card.
I got to take care of this first. Jesus Christ, I'm out of here before this gets worse. Bye.
Love him.
I'm just gonna kick up here. I'm enjoying this.
13. It's for a good cause.
It is for a good cause. By the way, if you guys want to get in on the action, I'll also throw it in here. At $1,000, I will also shave and do a porno mustache. I will get rid of all the chin hair. We're at $305 right now. Ryan,
And we're at 17 candy corn.
17 candy corn. Does he have to do it again at 500? No, we won't make him do that.
I might be out of candy corn, and I'm not going to get any more. 19.
How many do you think he can go, chat? Let me hear in the chat. How many do you think he can go? He's at 20.
I'm at 20. Let's see if
57.
But here's the thing: 10 and 10, and now I have the rest of my.
Yeah,
mouth.
now you got
So,
the middle to work with here.
Do you think I'm setting the over under at 27.5?
Okay, we have a 27 in the chat. Relax the throat.
Okay. 21. 22.
Oh, he's going speed mode now.
28. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28.
Yeah.
29.
30.
30. 31. 32. 33.
Uh-oh.
34.
34. Are you done? You calling it? 34. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think so. We'll give you some time. You want some milk? I don't know what beverage goes well with 34 candy corn.
Oh. Well.
You're gonna. Yikes! 34 candy corn at once. Someone go tell Mike Rothstein. He'll get real excited about that. The only candy corn advocate on the Lions beat, if I'm not mistaken.
Does Kyle Yost count?
No. Just kidding, Kyle. I love you.
Oh my god. Oh. It says the serving size is 15 pieces.
It says 18, yeah.
No, it says about 18 servings per container.
Oh, yeah, so 15, you're right. Oh, so that's not that bad. There's only a little bit over 220 calories. That's not that bad.
It says 88% of my daily sugar.
You're going to be wired tonight. I'll tell you, like, after I ate the 12 pieces of Halloween candy last week, my stomach was in knots for like 24 hours.
Sweet.
Hey, you don't have to go into work anymore.
Yay!
Thanks, Governor.
We live in a dystopia.
You boys like Mexico? Woo!
Dude, I am finding, like, I haven't even started chewing this piece. I haven't even started chewing it yet. I'm like, I was like finding them in pockets of my mouth.
Yikes. Was that worse or the mozzarella sticks?
The candy corn was more fun. Because I wanted to see, like, now I know, like, I can put 34 candy corns in my mouth.
It was an experiment.
I'll never forget that. I knew that I was going to absolutely hate eating the mozzarella sticks.
Yeah. I think with the mozzarella sticks, the fact that we could literally hear your stomach after was very concerning to me.
I just had the bubble guts.
Oh, Uncle Indigo says you could add 35. Could have gone for the Miles Killebrew.
Instead, I ended up with the Zach Center.
You should have stopped at 32 as an honor to Deandre Swift.
Do you think that he keeps that number?
I don't know.
Or do you think that's just like a rookie number?
Maybe. Do we know what he would have wanted? I don't even remember what he had in college.
I think he was number 7 in college, so he can't do that.
but maybe 27. Although Coleman's going to stick around for a while, probably. So
Maybe he can change the offensive line and do 72.
I don't think he can do that. No, I don't think that's a good idea.
Can he be listed as a quarterback and just play running back?
Sure. The Taysom Hill.
There you go.
20. Was he 28? LJ says 28.
Deandre Swift?
I don't know.
Oh, he was number 7.
Or was he 28? Was he 28 in training camp until AD was signed? Is that what you're saying?
That might have been it.
I don't remember anything. Feels like this season has already been 8 months long, so you're probably right. Chat, I don't think I got anything else for you, unless you guys have got any other questions.
I feel like shit.
Thank you for all the gifted subs. LJ, thank you for all your support. Joshua with all the gifted subs. Amy for the $35. Uncle Indigo 20. Big Al with the 50. You guys are amazing. All the new YouTube subs. Appreciate you guys. El Son of Chuck is the latest one on YouTube. Appreciate our new YouTube crowd. Glad that we finally expanded there, because I know there's a lot of people over there that watch it on rerun. Now you can watch it live. That's exciting, right?
Do you want to leave with one really good Deandre Swift stat that I just saw?
Yes, I do.
Deandre Swift had a season-high 76.2% running back rush share this week to go along with his second highest target share of the year. It's
Swift
about
time, baby.
Damn time
You
to
darn
get
right.
to get Swifty.
Uncle asks, is it better to watch via YouTube or versus Twitch? I don't really have a preference. We're still figuring out how to monetize YouTube videos live. I know there's like a super chat and other donation options. I don't know if I even have those set up. I'm still kind of working out the kinks. If we want to get partnered on Twitch, I guess Twitch is maybe better for that. But since we're not partnered, I think once we get partnered, we're not allowed to broadcast on both, so that's not that important to me. So, whichever one's most easy for you. I think it's easier to give financially if that's important to you through Twitch. But again, whatever's good for you. We're not picky. There's more fun stuff I can do on Twitch, like do polls and give you links for the Movember stuff and things like that. But again, whatever's good for you guys. We'll be back here again Wednesday night to preview the Panthers game, hopefully with a Panthers beat writer or analyst or writer or whatever. Then we'll be back here on Saturday for the Madden Sim. And actually, Ryan, you've been requested to attend the next Madden Sim, because I don't know if you heard. I stipulated if we got 20 gifted subs, I would put Tua Tagovailoa as the starting quarterback for the Lions for the second Sim. We're going to do 2. We're going to do a regular one, and then we're going to do a Tua Madden Sim after that. So you've been requested for that. If you can make it, probably starts around noon, but no pressure.
As always, I will perform under pressure. And as always, I think I might go stick my finger down my throat.
Wait, as always. Do we need to talk?
We should talk about my gambling problem first.
Okay. One thing at a time. All right, everybody. We're going to end it there. Thank you for joining us. Go Lions. 4-5, baby. Back in this thing. All right.